ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। जय गौर प्रेमानंदे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, entitled The Lord in the Heart. Text 5. Chirani kim pathi na santi dishanti bhiksham. Chirani kim pathi na santi dishanti bhiksham. नैवांग्रिपा परभृतः सरितोप्यशुष्यान् नैवांग्रिपा परभृता सरितोप्यशुष्यान् रुधा गुहा किमजितोवति नोपसन्नान् रुधा गुहा किमजितोवति नोपसन्नान् कस्माद् भजन्ति कवयो धनदुर्मदान्धान् कस्माद् भजन्ति कवयो धनदुर्मदान्धान् चिरन्ति किं पथि न सन्ति दिशन्ति भिक्षाम् नैवांग्रिपा परभृता सरितोप्यशुष्यान् रुद्धा गुहा किमजितोवति नोपसन्नान् कस्माद् भजन्ति कवयो धनदुर्मदान्धान् चिरन्ति किं पथि न सन्ति दिशन्ति भिक्षाम् नैवांग्रिपा परभृतः सन्तोप्यशुष्यन् रुद्धा गुहा किमजितोवति नोपसन्नान् कस्माद् भजन्ति कवयो धनदुर्मदान्धान् Yes. Anyone like to recite? Chirani kim Chirani Kimpati Vasati Nisanti Vicham Kripa Tasmad Bhajanti Kayo Tandurmadandha. Vaishnavis. Chirani Kimpati Nahanti Dishanti Tasatopi Shushan Rudhaguha Kimajito Padunvasonan Smart Bhajanti Kavayo Pridhandha. Word to word translations. Chirani, torn clothes. Kim, weather. Pathi, on the road. Na, not. Santi, there is. Dishanti, give in charity. Bhiksham, alms. Na, not. Eva, also. Angripaha, the trees. Parabhritaha, one who maintains others. Saritaha, the rivers. Api, also. Ashushan, have dried up. Ruddhaha, closed. Guha, caves. Kim, weather. Ajitaha, the Almighty Lord. Avati, gives protection. Na, not. Upasannan, the surrendered soul. Kasmat, what for, then. Bhajanti, flatters. Kavayaha, the learned. Dhana, wealth. Durmadandhan, too intoxicated by. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Are there no torn cloths lying on the common road? Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms in charity? Do the rivers, being dried up, no longer supply water to the thirsty? Are the caves of the mountains now closed? Or above all, does the Almighty Lord not protect the fully surrendered souls? Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth? Purport. The renounced order of life is never meant for begging or living at the cost of others as a parasite. According to the dictionary, a parasite is a sycophant who lives at the cost of society without making any contributions to that society. The renounced order is meant for contributing something substantial to society and not depending on the earnings of the householders. On the contrary, acceptance of alms from the householders by the bona fide mendicant is an opportunity afforded by the saint for the tangible benefit of the donor. In the Sanatana Dharma institution, alms giving to the mendicant is part of a householder's duty, and it is advised in the scriptures that the householder should treat the mendicants as their family children and should provide them with food, clothing, etc. without being asked. Pseudo-mendicants, therefore, should not take advantage of the charitable disposition of the faithful householders. The first duty of a person in the renounced order of life is to contribute some literary work for the benefit of the human being in order to give him realized direction towards self-realization. Amongst the other duties in the renounced order of life of Sri Sanatan, Sri Rupa and other Goswamis of Vrindavan, the foremost duty discharged by them was to hold learned discourse among themselves at Sevakunj, Vrindavan, the spot where Sri Radha Damodar temple was established by Sri Rupa Goswami and where the actual Samadhi tombs of Sri Rupa Goswami and Sri Jiva Goswami are laid. For the benefit of all in human society, They left behind them immense literatures of transcendental importance. Similarly, all the acharyas who voluntarily accepted the renounced order of life aimed at benefiting human society and not at living a comfortable or irresponsible life at the cost of others. However, those who cannot give any contribution should not go to the householders for food. For such mendicants, asking bread from the householders are an insult to the highest order. Shukdev Goswami gave this warning especially for those mendicants who adopt this line of profession to solve their economic problems. Such mendicants are in abundance in the age of Kali. When a man becomes a mendicant willfully or by circumstances, he must be of firm faith and conviction that the Supreme Lord is the maintainer of all living beings everywhere in the universe. Why then would he neglect the maintenance of a surrendered soul who is 100% engaged in the service of the Lord? A common master looks to the necessities of his servant, so how much more would the all-powerful, all-opulent Supreme Lord look after the necessities of life for a fully surrendered soul? The general rule is that a mendicant devotee will accept a simple small loin cloth without asking anyone to give it in charity. He simply salvages it from the rejected torn cloths thrown in the street. When he is hungry, he may go to a magnanimous tree which drops fruits, and when he is thirsty, he may drink water from the flowing river. He does not require to live in a comfortable house, but should find a cave in the hills and not be afraid of jungle animals, keeping faith in God who lives in everyone's heart. The Lord may dictate to tigers and other jungle animals not to disturb his devotee. Haridas Thakur, a great devotee of Lord Sri Chaitanya, used to live in such a cave, and by chance a great venomous snake was a co-partner of the cave. Some admirer of Thakur Haridas, who had to visit the Thakur every day, feared the snake and suggested that the Thakur leave that place. Because his devotees were afraid of the snake and they were regularly visiting the cave, Thakur Haridas agreed to the proposal on their account. But as soon as this was settled, the snake actually crawled out of its hole in the cave and left the cave for good before everyone present. By the dictation of the Lord, who lived also within the heart of the snake gave preference to Haridas and decided to leave that place and not disturb him. So this is a tangible example of how the Lord gives protection to a bona fide devotee like Thakur Haridas. According to the regulations of the Sanatana Dharma institution, one is trained from the beginning to depend fully on the protection of the Lord in all circumstances. The path of renunciation is recommended for acceptance by one who is fully accomplished and fully purified in his existence. The stage is described also in the Bhagavad Gita 16.5 as Daivi Sampat. A human being is required to accumulate Daivi Sampat or spiritual assets. Otherwise, the next alternative, Asuri Sampat or material assets, will overcome him disproportionately, and thus one will be forced into the entanglement of different miseries of the material world. A sannyasi should always live alone without company, and he must be fearless. He should never be afraid of living alone, although he is never alone. The Lord is residing in everyone's heart, and unless one is purified by the prescribed process, one will feel that he is alone. But a man in the renounced order of life must be purified by the process. Thus, he will feel the presence of the Lord everywhere and will have nothing to fear, such as being without any company. Everyone can become a fearless and honest person if his very existence is purified by discharging the prescribed duty for each and every order of life. One can become fixed in one's prescribed duty by faithful oral reception of Vedic instructions and the assimilation of the essence of Vedic knowledge by devotional service to the Lord. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. So, today morning we are discussing from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are discussing the section where Shukadeva Goswami, the Bhagavatam is actually telling about how a renounced person should live. And this may seem to be a very radical mode of living, where it is saying, why can't you live with discarded clothes from the roadside? Why can't you just eat fruits, drink water, and live in a cave? Now, is this something? Every statement has some emphasis. So the emphasis of this statement is the last line. Kasmad bhajanti kavayo kim dharma Kasmad bhajanti kavayo dhan durmadandhan. So the point of this verse is not that everyone should live like this. But the point of the verse is, why should the learned kavaya flatter the dhan dharmadandhan, those who are intoxicated by wealth, for the sake of gaining something for their subsistence? So, Srila Prabhupada would often use this rhetorical way of speaking. And when rhetorical way is used, for example, Prabhupada says that even if a person is a drunkard, that person can think that the taste of wine is Krishna. And by thinking the taste of wine is Krishna, one day that person will become a great devotee. So the point of this verse is not that we should drink. The point is that think of Krishna wherever we are. Similarly, the point of this verse is not that everybody has to live like this. We see in the Vedic culture, there is description of how to build houses, there's architecture, there's description of how to dress, there is description of how to earn one's livelihood. So this is not an absolute mandate for everyone. The emphasis is that why should one flatter the wealthy to gain some facilities from them? We can have faith, the facilities will come if we just stick to one's dharma. So the word dharma, actually, Prabhupada talks in the purport about the dharma of a sannyasi. And then he talks about how there are dharma for everyone. The word dharma is often translated as law or religion or code. That is one translation, and it is valid in some places. But dharma essentially refers to the essential order that underlies the universe. And the activities which we do by which we can harmonize with that order. So there is an order underlying the universe. And when we do activities by which we harmonize with that order, then that comprises dharma. So there are, for different people, according to their different natures, different positions, there will be different activities that they need to do to harmonize with the order of the universe. So for sannyasis, there's a particular way to live. For the grihasthas, there's a particular way to live. And in general, the world's religions can be classified into two. There are religions which emphasize the renounced order. And there are religions which de-emphasize the renounced order. So for example, if we consider Christianity, originally there are Catholics who were Christians. But if we consider the Protestants, the founder Martin Luther, he was a monk who eventually gave up monkhood and he married a nun. And he wrote one of the most scathing critiques in history against monkhood. And he said, this is not at all practical, this is torture, and this is not necessary. And since then, Protestants don't have any monks at all. Now, if we see in the Vedic tradition, there have been always both. There have been the householders and there have been the renunciates. If we look at Islam also, they don't have any tradition of monkhood. So there are certain religions which don't have a tradition of monkhood, whereas some other religions have a tradition of the renounced order. So now the broad difference between these two is that in religions where there is focus on the next world, where there is focus on the next world and the understanding of the other world is spiritual, then the renounced order is emphasized, and the renounced order serves as an example of how one must live to attain the other world. But in many religions, the conception of the other world is also very material. For example, in Christianity, the idea is that heaven is like a perpetual family reunion. Now, all your deceased family members, we will reunite with them when we go to heaven. And in Islam, according to some interpretations of Islam, their conception of Jannat is where the martyr can enjoy with so many 73 virgins or whatever. So actually, it is a very materialistic conception of the other world. When they have that materialistic conception of the other world, then even in this world, the renunciation is very much de-emphasized. So we see where there is the religions in which there is no renounced order, they tend to become highly materialistic. So America was founded largely by Protestant Christians. And Protestants largely worked on what is called as prosperity theology. Prosperity theology is the idea that worldly prosperity is the proof of our piety, is the proof of our devotion. So if we are devoted to God, that means we will be prosperous in this world. So their interpretation was that the countries which are poor, their poverty is the proof that they are not devoted to God. And our prosperity is the proof that we are devoted to God. So their prosperity theology is actually not directly in the Bible, but it is a derivative from the Bible. And so that theology actually perpetuates materialism in the name of religion. And this is taken even more in Islam, where the idea is political conquest is seen as the proof of one's faith in God, one's devotion to God. The very fact that we are devoted, that's why we won this war. That's why we have conquered so much kingdom. That's why we have achieved so many things. So actually, the materialism is very natural in this world. And there has to be always some restriction or some counterbalance to the materialism that is natural. And that counterbalance is provided by the renounced order. Now, of course, if you say the balance can shift this way, it can shift that way also. The balance can shift too much towards materialism, where prosperity in this world itself is emphasized. And sometimes the balance can shift too much in the other direction also, where too much renunciation is emphasized. And practical contributions in this world are not given their due need. So when that happens, then people become very dismissive about this world. And if people become very dismissive about this world, then the administration in this world, the establishment of dharma in this world, all that can become neglected. So the pendulum going too much towards renunciation is also not valid. It has to be a balance between the two. So if we see, there is in Shastra always the context that is important. The Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam both talk about bhakti, but their model of bhakti is significantly different. The Bhagavad Gita's model of bhakti is engaged bhakti. Practically nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita does Krishna endorse renunciation. Because the context is Arjuna can do his duty primarily by fighting the war. So therefore, in order to fight the war, Arjuna needs to do his duty. He cannot renounce the world. Whereas the Bhagavatam is spoken to a person who is about to die, Parikshit Maharaj, and he has also accepted his death, his inevitable death. So at that time, he is given appropriate instruction which will inspire him to just become detached from everything else and focus on absorbing himself in Krishna. So even from a practical life and as a devotee, we may see that if somebody is a young, energetic devotee, and that person is unnecessarily depressed or is very become lethargic, apathetic, the person says, I just want to go to Vrindavan and chant 64 rounds every day. Well, you don't have to do that. You have so much energy. You do practical services. You preach, you distribute books, you help in building a temple. There's so many practical services. You do that. So normally Prabhupada did not approve devotees going to Vrindavan and becoming Babajis. He said, do practical service in this world. On the other hand, if we know some devotee who has got terminal cancer and they're going to live in maybe 1 month or so, at that time they're saying, oh, I want to build this temple, I want to raise funds for this temple. Well, don't bother about all this. All this Krishna will take care. You focus on absorbing yourselves in Krishna. So at that time they will just hear about Krishna, chant Krishna's name, surround yourself with spiritual impressions and lose yourself in Krishna. So about Bhishma Pitama it is said, iti matir upakalpita vitrishna, that just before he departed from the world, at that time he withdrew his consciousness from everywhere else and invested it in Krishna. Now what does this mean? Was he not devoted to Krishna throughout his life? He was devoted to Krishna, but he was also active acting in this world. So when he has to fight a war, when he has to manage a kingdom, when he has to dispense justice, at that time he cannot just be lost in thoughts of Krishna. He has to think about the issues and act while dealing with those issues in a mood of service. But at the time of death, he completely withdrew himself. So prior to this, the Bhagavatam described that he instructed Yudhishthira Maharaj about dharma, about Raja Dharma, about Kshatriya Dharma, about various kinds of dharma. And the Shanti Parva and Anushasan Parva in the Mahabharata are among the longest sets of instruction in the Mahabharata. And Bhishma Pitama talked about all these different topics to guide Yudhishthira Maharaj. And then he focused on Krishna exclusively. So the point is that in different contexts, different kinds of instructions need to be given. And if there is sway in the Bhagavatam, in the Uddhava Gita, it is a sway adhikare yanishtha, that everybody has to be given instruction according to their level. If they are given instruction which is not according to their level, they can become misled. They can get lost. Say a father has 2 children, and one of them is a very good student. Say he gets 80% marks. And the other is a below average student, just gets 40% marks. And say both of them have come, they have brought their results. And both of them have got 60%. Now, the person who used to get 40%, father will shabash, well done. And the second person, say, badmash, what have you done? Second son may say, hey, both of us got 60%. Why are you praising me and praising him and chastising me? For 80% person to come down to 60% is wrong. But for 40% to rise to the 60% level is good. Now if 40% has risen to the 60%, and then he is told, Badmash, why did you not get 80%? Well, for him to rise to 60% itself is good. Isn't it? And that is to be appreciated. But from the 80% perspective, 60% is not so good. So like that, there are always levels in the practice of dharma. And instruction has to be given according to the level of a person. So for somebody who is just a materialist, an atheist, if they start worshipping the devatas, that is good. If they can worship Krishna, that's great. But if they can't, it is not that we have to condemn them for worshipping devatas. That worshipping devatas is much higher than being an atheist or just a gross materialist. And so there is a level and hierarchy, and people progress gradually. So the Bhagavatam is giving us paradharma, dharma that enables us to attain the highest destination. Now that destination is the ultimate goal of everyone, but that may not be the immediate goal of everyone. So in this case, the section is primarily talking about renunciates, and the emphasis is, if we see, Srila Prabhupada talks about how we can live with fruits from the trees, or we can just drink water from the rivers. But then Prabhupada himself did not live like that. Prabhupada demonstrated that spirit of renunciation when he left all alone. Prabhupada says that sannyasi should be fearless, should be ready to go all alone. So Prabhupada went all alone to America at an advanced age. And he went to people who had never heard about Krishna and gave Krishna to them. That was his fearlessness. But once he started preaching, he adopted that which was suitable for him. So Prabhupada was in Singapore and in Hong Kong, and at the time he was in a very opulent hotel over there. The interview was going on. So the reporter asked him, Swamiji, you are a renunciate. Why are you staying in such a big hotel? So Prabhupada said, I can sit under a tree. But if I had called for a press conference under a tree, would you have come? Would you have come? So sometimes, we have to do the needful for ensuring that Krishna's message reaches the people. So the renounce order has to be devoted to Krishna, but the devotion to Krishna does not necessarily have to manifest only in total rejection of the world. Sometimes they may adopt some things of this world so that they can attract people in this world towards Krishna. So there is always this dynamic aspect of the practice of bhakti, where there are principles that are eternal, but practices are contextual. We cannot make the practices eternal. So for example, what do we mean by practices eternal? In the past, the Prabhupada says how the sannyasis would go to the householders and they would give spiritual knowledge, and then the householders would give some donations. So now that was an opportunity for the householders to actually make spiritual growth by that. When Srila Prabhupada came to America, he did not have that facility And the people had no appreciation of the renounced order and no culture of giving any contribution to the renounced order. So what did Prabhupada do? Prabhupada said, let us have book distribution. The principle is when the renounced order or whenever those who are devoted to God go out, their purpose is to get to give knowledge to Krishna, knowledge about Krishna. So that knowledge can be given through talks. That knowledge can be given through books. The purpose of book the purpose of book distribution is the same as the purpose of renunciates traveling around and giving spiritual knowledge. But the practice is different. So Prabhupada told, give books and people give some charity. So if we just give knowledge, people don't appreciate knowledge so much. But if there's something tangible like a book to give, people appreciate that. So, when the practices themselves are made eternal, that becomes fanaticism. The practices can vary according to time, place, circumstances. The principles are eternal. The practices vary. So, here, kasmad bhajanti kavayo dhan durmadandhan. Why should the learned flatter the wealthy? So what does this mean? This means simply that the renounced order, they are meant to share spiritual knowledge. And for that purpose, they may interact with the wealthy. But quite often, those who are wealthy, they are used to a culture of sycophancy, where wealthy people are surrounded by others who praise them, who glorify them. And the renounced order doesn't have to play into that culture. That doesn't have to play into that culture. What they have to do is, they have to make sure that they enable people whom they are interacting with to come closer to Krishna. So, I was in Alachua a few days ago, and there I met Ambarish Prabhu. So Ambarish Prabhu, he tells that he is Alfred Ford. So his great-grandfather was Henry Ford. So when Prabhupada first time met Ambarish Prabhu, Alfred Ford, when devotees introduced him, he's the great-grandson of Henry Ford. The first question that Prabhupada asked was, where is he now? Where is he now? So Ambarish Prabhu writes that, at that time I understood. Prabhupada is really a saint. What was it, where is he now? The point is, that means he earned so much wealth, but now he's gone somewhere else. Somewhere else, the wealth is left behind over here. So, the point is that actually, there are things in this world which come and go. But we as souls are eternal and we have eternal relationship with Krishna. Prabhupada came to give us that knowledge. So, whatever is required to give that knowledge, the saintly people need to do that. Sometimes we may go to wealthy people, and if we have spiritual stature like Prabhupada, we may cut through their illusions. Or sometimes we may talk cordially with them and inspire them to serve Krishna. But we don't have to flatter them in the sense of just not giving them anything spiritual wisdom and just trying to get into their circle so that they give us money. So we want to engage them in Krishna's service, and for that, whatever practical approach is there, that's fine. So here the emphasis of the Bhagavatam is, don't give up your principles just for the sake of maintenance. And that principle can be applied in all orders of life, according to time, place, circumstance. So there is I'll conclude with this point of two extremes. One extreme is that we think that Krishna is the maintainer, and therefore I don't need to do anything. I don't need to work, I don't need to make plans, I don't need to have savings. Krishna is there, he will take care of everything. Now, this can be the mode of a pure devotee, but this can also be the mode of an irresponsible person. We see the Vedic culture has dharma, and there are practices by which people maintain themselves. So just to reject everything and to not worry anything about one's maintenance, thinking that Krishna will take care, that can be exalted devotion, but that can be irresponsibility also. Because there are systems which we are meant to follow for taking care of ourselves. The other extreme is to think, Krishna will not do anything, therefore I have to do whatever it takes. And we abandon our principles also for the practice for the purpose of maintenance. But between these two extremes, the balanced state is that we understand that Krishna is the maintainer, but Krishna maintains by also giving us intelligence, by giving us abilities. So we see that there are two modes of surrender. There's Draupadi's surrender, where she raises her hands and says, Krishna, I surrender to you. But in the Bhagavad Gita also concludes with Krishna telling Arjuna, surrender, Mamekam Sharanam, and Arjuna surrenders. But what is Arjuna's surrender? Arjuna lifts up his bow and is ready to fight. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara. So it's dependence on Krishna, surrender to Krishna doesn't just mean that we do nothing and think Krishna will do everything. Surrender to Krishna means also that we use everything that we have in Krishna's service. So if we have intelligence, we have abilities, we should use them in Krishna's service. And as long as the purpose of serving Krishna is kept steady, everything else follows by Krishna's mercy. So he will give us the intelligence, he will give the resources, just as he gave Srila Prabhupada, by which Prabhupada was able to establish this extraordinary global movement for sharing bhakti. So here, last year I had come and this year I have come. The temple is wonderfully transformed. And this is testimony to all of your dedication and commitment. And Krishna is showering his blessings and reciprocation with your commitment. And I'm grateful to see this wonderful reciprocation between Krishna and all of you. So I'll summarize. I started by talking about how there are rhetorical statements where the emphasis has to be understood. It's like when Prabhupada says, even a drunkard can think of Krishna. The emphasis is think of Krishna, not that be a drunkard. Similarly here, the emphasis is not that we have to live on discarded clothes or live in caves. But the emphasis is don't flatter the wealthy to just for the sake of maintenance. And we discussed how the purport Srila Prabhupada talks about the renounced order. And there are religions which reject the renounced order, and there are religions which emphasize the renounced order. So those which reject the renounced order, they tend to become very materialistic. Their conception of the other world is also materialistic. And renounced order plays an important balancing role, where the materialism that is normal in this world, that is counterbalanced by the example of those who are renounced. But at the same time, sometimes the balance can go too much in the other direction, imbalance, where renunciation is too much emphasized, and then in this world, responsibility and doing whatever it takes to protect dharma, that can also be rejected. So there has to be balance between the two. And dharma actually means the order in the universe and the activity that we do to harmonize with that order. And we see that this balance between these two aspects, the engaged aspect and the renounced aspect, that is seen in the two different modes of bhakti presented in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita disapproves renunciation and focuses on engagement, because that is the context. Arjuna has to do his duty. Shukdev Goswami, on the other hand, Parikshit Maharaj has renounced the world, is about to leave his body. So for them, just this kind of verses and this mood of renouncing everything. Don't worry about anything else. Just focus on Krishna. That is talked about. Like a young devotee who wants to chant 64 rounds, they're told, do practical services. But a devotee who is about to leave the body, at that time, they don't worry about anything practical. Just focus on Krishna. So according to context, the message has to be customized. So we discussed about how Srila Prabhupada, he talks about this in the purport, but he does not necessarily implement that. Because there are principles and there are practices. Principles are eternal, the practices are contextual. So Prabhupada, he exhibited the principle of renunciation, complete dependence on Krishna by coming alone to America. But once an institution was established, he created systems by which the institution could be maintained and everything could be sustainable. So for example, he adapted the traditional system of renunciates going to householders in the form of book distribution, whereby tangibly giving spiritual knowledge. The purpose remains the same, the principle is served, principle remains the same, but the practice is adapted. And lastly, we discussed about how, with respect to maintaining oneself, there can be two extremes. One thinks that Krishna will take care of everything, and one doesn't do anything practical. And the other is that one does everything practical and thinks Krishna will not play any factor, so I have to do everything myself. And I may give up my principles also for that. No, the Bhagavatam says over here that stick to one's principles and do one's practice, do one's responsibility also. And that way, surrender is not just raising one's hand like Draupadi. Surrender is also raising up one's bow for fighting. It means we do our responsibilities to the best of our capacity, using what Krishna has given us in his service. Thank you very much. Going through any comments, corrections? So, Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Jai Gaur Premanande. Did you record it? You also recorded? Some. Prabhu, you recorded the lecture? You recorded the talk?
Yeah,
Can you mail it to me?
yeah, sure.
Actually, my memory got exhausted. I didn't realize it. I had the recording going on, but I didn't record it. So I'll just give you my email ID. Please send it.
जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा माई की गौर निताय की पंच तत्व की श्रीला प्रभुपाद की